With me now is Glenn Greenwald, author of the book Securing Democracy. And Glenn, you said something rather extraordinary to me, to Tucker last night. You were talking about the way Dianne Feinstein and other powerful politicians who are supposed to be in charge of democratic oversight of the NSA and their like are actually under surveillance by these agencies themselves, and so are actually scared of them.
Yeah, I mean, this has been going on since basically the end of World War II, when the national security state was created on purpose to be outside of the realm of democratic accountability. But at least there, the argument was we need to do this to deter a threat that no longer exists, which is Soviet communism. But even then, they were constantly interfering in domestic politics. J. Edgar Hoover had dossiers on all kinds of American politicians. They were all petrified of him, so he was able to do what he wanted. When Dwight Eisenhower left after 8 years as the president, no leftist he chose one topic to warn the country about, which was what he called the military-industrial complex, that it was growing so rapidly that it was becoming more powerful even than elected leaders. And that was before the Vietnam War, before 9/11, and now before the hysteria over January 6th. And so you have these agencies, Mark, that do whatever they want, including collecting information on the members of Congress who are the only ones who can exercise oversight of them. And so you can see why there's really no oversight at all. They do whatever they want and pose such a grave threat to democracy.
But when you're talking about the J. Edgar Hoover days, in fairness to those guys, they actually had to get into somebody's apartment and stick a bug in the wardrobe. It's the combination now of technology and, again, this insane, huge number, 5 million people with security clearances, that just means that any old low-level bureaucrat can basically switch on his computer and be inside the emails of whoever he wants.
I think it's a key point. You know, the internet, when it first emerged, the idea was it was going to be this unprecedented tool of human liberation. It was going to enable us to communicate without centralized corporate and state power. And in fact, the opposite has happened, which is it's been turned into the greatest tool of coercion and control ever known in history, because the NSA secretly, which is what Edward Snowden came forth to reveal to his fellow citizens, had decided to use it to spy on everybody. And it really hasn't been reined in since then. So you're exactly right. It's the ease with which all of our activities that now take place digitally, especially after the COVID pandemic, can be collected and stored and monitored and analyzed and then weaponized with very little safeguards.
Yeah, basically they start from the premise, which is an Orwellian premise, that they monitor everyone. It's universal, 100%, and then they pick and choose the bits they need. Why is the left at ease with this? Is it just because they think, well, it will afflict Tucker Carlson and our other enemies, and that's more important than any of the darker implications of total control?
You know, it's bizarre. I've worked on this issue for 15, 20 years. It used to be a more or less left-wing view that the security state agencies shouldn't be trusted, and it was more the right-wing and conservatives who kind of venerated these agencies in the name of fighting communism and terrorism. And it was really through the Trump years where everything reversed, because the CIA and the FBI became rogue agencies of the government operating to subvert and undermine the elected president to whom they're supposed to be answering. And so liberals, not necessarily the left, but liberals, view the FBI and the CIA as their allies, and the conservatives finally realized if we allow these institutions to operate in the dark, they can undermine our democracy. And so everything is kind of reversed now, where it's the right that's distrustful of these agencies and liberals who revere them.
Well, we've got another example of that for you, Glenn. Stick around if you don't mind, because this next story is one that you've been following, unlike almost the entire American media. Julian Assange is the WikiLeaks founder. He's Australian, so he's a subject to the Queen, so he owes no allegiance to the United States whatsoever. And if the bloated buffoons of the US intelligence community are too incompetent to keep their own secrets, that's hardly his fault. But he embarrassed them. So they've spent the last decade trying to get him into jail. After losing on extradition a couple of months back in the Westminster Magistrates Court, they're now appealing by promising that, oh, don't worry, we're not going to bang him up in the Supermax, so please, please, please extradite him, and we'll handle him with all the care and attention we gave to Jeffrey Epstein. Julian Assange's father and brother, John and Gabriel Shipton, join us now from Sydney. Gabriel, you're Julian Assange's brother. Your worries about this appeal, I take it, are that once he gets to the United States and he's under the custody of the Federal Bureau of Prisons, you're actually concerned he's not going to make it out of there alive, whatever happens.
Yeah, that's right, and that's that's why the extradition was rejected back in January, and now the prosecution has given these assurances that Julian won't be held in Florence, Colorado Supermax prison. He won't be held under SAMS, but there's a caveat in that, and that basically they can change their mind as soon as Julian gets into the US. That it's up to the CIA, the director of the CIA, basically to say whether Julian ends up in SAMS or which prison he ends up in. So there's really no assurance at all in this appeal, and it's just a way to keep this court proceeding going and keep Julian in a maximum security prison in London, where he's been now his third year in prison there.
Yeah. As you say, well, as we all say, the process is the punishment here. He's lost a decade of his life, even though he's never been convicted of anything already. John, why do you think the US government is determined to do this? If the Australian government were trying to put an American in prison for leaking Australian secrets, Americans would be up in arms about that. Why do you think the US government is pursuing this?
It's a suitable means to truncate the First Amendment by arresting and jailing and pursuing for, well, now 12 years, a publisher and journalist who commented upon the national security information. So just the end, full stop, of any comment by any journalist anywhere in the world, including the United States, on national security matters or any matter that the CIA or the Department of Justice feel disgruntled about. It's ruinous of liberty, and liberty depends solely upon First Amendment free speech. It's completely ruined.
Yeah, which ought to be an American issue. I mean, they don't have D-notices in America like you do in London and in Sydney, where there are restrictions on these things. In theory, it ought to be a freer climate here. But Gabriel, when you read the indictment, it's a really weak case they've got against your brother, and it's a pathetically weak case against a foreign national that you're trying to get extradited. Are you confident that whichever judge in London this lands up in front of will actually stick with the decision of the Westminster Court in January and reject this from the Americans?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and the case, it just keeps getting weaker and weaker. A couple of weeks ago, one of the key witnesses in the prosecution's case recanted a lot of their accusations against Julian. Torderson, who was an Icelandic man, he recanted his accusations that formed part of the judgment from January 4th. So there's this one section of the case, the conspiracy to commit computer intrusion, and that underpins the whole case is just totally unraveling now. So the case is getting weaker and weaker day by day. So, I expect in the next hearings we'll just hear more about, the lengths that the DOJ has gone to try and, game the Espionage Act and US laws to go after Julian. So, I think eventually this will have to be dropped.
Well, thank you for joining us from Sydney, John and Gabriel. I'm glad you mentioned that, this Icelandic witness who has since recanted, because I only read about that in the Icelandic press. I don't remember reading about it in the New York Times or the Washington Post. So let's go back to Glenn Greenwald. Glenn, you'd think this would be a great freedom of the press story for the American newspapers, and yet it only seems to be of interest to Icelanders and Australians and all kinds of other people.
Yeah, and to Fox News, which is the only place that is willing to cover this. And that's the key issue, Mark. Remember, for the last 5 years, the U.S. media flamboyantly pranced around as intrepid defenders of press freedom when it came to things like mean tweets from Trump about Jim Acosta or Wolf Blitzer. And now you have a prosecution that all press freedom groups and civil liberties groups say pose a grave threat to press freedom if it succeeds. And because it's the Biden Justice Department pursuing it, they're basically mute, if not supportive. It's really disgraceful to watch them do that.
Yeah, and these assurances they're giving to the English court are completely worthless. As we know, in every case from Jeffrey Epstein to Bill Cosby, this land is rife with prosecutorial misconduct in which they basically tear up agreements they've entered into as soon as it suits them. And
remember that the Democrats hate Julian Assange probably more than any single individual on the planet. Not only did he reveal their war crimes under Obama, but much worse in their eyes, he did reporting in the 2016 election that reflected poorly on Hillary Clinton. They blamed Julian Assange for helping Trump get elected. Do you think they're going to treat him humanely or justly or fairly if they get their hands on him?
No, I do not think so. And I tell you this, if I were the relevant cabinet minister in London, I would, whatever the judge says, I would not extradite this guy to the United States. I don't like the way they're treating, I don't like what happened to Jeffrey Epstein. They can't keep the most valuable prisoner in America alive. The Bureau of Prisons is either incompetent or evil, and you shouldn't be transferring this guy into its tender care. Thank you so much for joining us on this, Glenn Greenwald, and for sticking around, because you're one of the few people.
Great to talk to you, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And Glenn is worth reading on this subject, as on many others.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.